I'm here with a new podfic called I'm Never Gonna Be Good Enough For You by Kate Sede. And there no archive warnings apply, but this is a teen enough fic, and I will be reading out the reasons why, and if any of these trigger you, you can check out another one of my videos or someone else's. Immortal Danny Fenton, identity reveal, identity issues, ghost biology, Jack Fenton is not an idiot, good parent, Jack Fenton, bad parent, Maddie Fenton, divorce, child abuse, child neglect, physical abuse, verbal abuse, suicidal thoughts, parental clockwork, past Danny Fenton / Valerie Gray, past Danny Fenton / Sam Manson, fake / pretend relationships, post-graphic novel, A Glitch in Time, bully Jack Baxter, angst with a happy ending, her / comfort relationship, blood and injury, gay Danny Fenton, sexuality crisis, stereotypical homophobia, gay Mr. Lancer, good Mr. Lancer, POV third person limited, POV Danny Fenton, POV Sam Manson, POV Valerie Gray, POV Mr. Lancer, POV Jack Fenton, minor Paulina Sanchez / star, minor Paul Sam Manson / non-binary original character, bullying, coming out, underage drinking, half ghost biology, underage drug use, drug addiction, half Valerie Gray, past suicide attempts. If any of those trigger you, please click off the video now. This fic is 27 chapters, and I will be reading all of these in a series. This was completed, so there is 27 chapters in total and 279,264 words. With that, onto the fic. Summary. When school needs a band for a fall festival, Danny creates one with some ghost friends he's befriended. Somehow this leads to a snowball of events, including Danny learning not all half-elves are created equal, meaning he may be more than he thought, Danny realizing he isn't attracted to girls, multiple people figuring out Danny's identity, Jack and Maddie starting to physically abuse Danny, Jack making an effort to reconnect with his son, Jack considering if he should divorce Maddie, Jack and Valerie reevaluating their views on ghosts, Danny realizing Valerie may have ghost powers, Lancer wondering if CPS needs to be called, Nash bullying escalating to dangerous levels, Clockwork trying to parent Danny, and Jazz finally getting Danny into therapy. Notes. The ghost band fic I've been teasing is finally here. Final word count is around 200,000 words, and it's 99% written. Just need final edits, so I can confidently say I've been posting regularly, probably 1 to 2 chapters each weekend. Chapters will be anywhere from 8 to 12,000 words for a total of 23 chapters. Now, content notes. This takes place after a GIT covering September and November through Danny's junior year of high school, 11th grade. It takes place in 2006, which should stay true to the time period. Let me know if you find anything anachronistic, and I'll fix it. POV rotates between Danny, Jack, Lancer, Sam, and Valerie. Heavy focus on Danny's relationship with the ghosts and the parents, along with him coming to terms with being more ghost than human, the character's observations of such. This fic explores Danny's sexuality as he realizes he's come to terms of being gay, although there is no relationship or solid crush yet. Yes, I realize he's dated girls in the past. Comfort is the thing. The fic addresses this. This fic definitely has fluffy and fun moments, but it's a lot of angst and darker tones. Danny's not mentally well, although he's working on it. Jazz found him a therapist. It gets worse before it gets better, but it does get better. There are mentions of suicidal ideation, passive suicide attempts that take place in the year prior. There's also descriptions of intense bullying. One of the main features is divorce between Jack and Maddie due to not just Jack's opinions on ghost shifting, but also realizing Jack is realizing that Maddie's abuse of him has shifted to their son too. And in the end, there are descriptions of child abuse, as well as this fic deals with Danny's feelings as he grapples with this. It also deals with Jack's heavy feelings and such. As first, he's in a bit of denial, and that was happening with him and his son. I tagged these characters that have made reoccurring roles, so some of them take time to appear. There's a lot of characters with smaller roles, Vlad, Technus, etc., but I didn't tag that. The relationships are tagged are friend/family ones that are more heavily focused on. There's a bit of friend/family interaction. Any romantic relationships, Paulina/Star, Sam/OC, are more in the background. Danny fake dress dates Paulina and Ember as a means to hide his sexuality. I didn't tag those relationships, but they are minor as they focus on their purely lavender relationships, no chance of developing into romance. This is a hard T warning. We're definitely taking taking the level of a PG-13 movie, TV-14 show, or a T video game, and make it close to M at some points, depending on your personal definition of what counts as such. However, there's nothing worse than I've seen in a PG-13 film, so I'm sticking with T. This does include main character getting addicted to painkillers. If that's any issue for you, please be safe. Please be safe while watching. I will warn for the scenes I will have to explore. He gets help in the end throughout the fic, but it will be mentioned occasionally in my show home taking one. Please let me know if there should be anything that should be tagged more and that I missed. Now, enjoy. Chapter 1. Let's start a band. Summary. Leanne needs a band for school's fall festival. Danny decides to build one. You want me to what? Come on, Ember, please, Danny begged. You want to get out of the ghost zone, right? I'm not sure if you remember, Baby Pop, but the last time I did a concert in your town, well, I got shoved into that thermos of yours. Why the hell would I want to repeat that? Ember asks skeptically. Well, if you don't use your ghost powers, I won't have to do that, Danny reasoned. He hasn't been worried about her answer, knowing she'll eventually agree. In the months since the time glitch incident, where things have been reset just after the disasteroid problem was solved, in this timeline without ghosts, thus Danny suspects his secret identity being unknown, he'd been working on his relationships with the ghost, and there was a little antagonism with Ember now. Honestly, even before their fights and banter had just been more playful than anything. Danny deciding to work on connecting more with the ghost now to be the bridge that would connect the realms had simply solidified that relationship. Right, Ember trailed, crossing her arms. And what makes you think the school would allow that? You be part of a band. School doesn't need to know, Danny said. Honestly, all you need is a change of outfit, and they won't suspect anything. After all, Phantom was just a palette swap of Fenton, yet no one had ever caught on, at least based on looks. Yeah, you got me there, Ember conceded, with frown as she considered that. I don't know. I do want to play, but in the background? Then he shrugged. I mean, being the main singer might actually make people notice, since you do still have a lot of fans in Amity Park, though I guess maybe by this time we're up there, they can't really stop us. I mean, still though, whatever. Background's better than nothing, I guess. I'm pretty bored right now, so I'll bite. Then he grinned. Awesome. Wait, hold up, Ember said, realizing something. Who else is in it? Because if that Tucker kid... Kenny cut her off. No, ancients, no. He reassured her. He doesn't even know about this yet. So far we have you, Sam, this emo kid Jazz knows from her school called Lurker. I don't know if that's their real name. Danny also suspected that the college student was some sort of non-ghost cryptid, but if so, they were silent on that, and Danny didn't feel like asking them directly. All of Amity Park had quickly learned not to question the human status of the people in the town's newly erected, well, more specifically, it mysteriously appeared in the middle of a row of townhouses near the center of town, in an alley that really shouldn't have been large enough for an entire building to triple the width of the Fenton's works. Curious townspeople had tried to measure the distance between the street, but for some reason no data could ever be collected, as people forgot the numbers almost immediately, and trying to write them down first, even digitally, yielded nonsensical symbols. For instance, Miskanatic University, collectively deciding that the ghosts were the only supernatural thing the town needed and ignoring everything else. Danny continued. They have a keyboard, so that does sense the sounds, and Sam's a beast on the electric violin and can do background singing. You could do guitar and background singing, but we still need a drummer and lead singer. Just a singer. Lame. Guitar and singing is so much cooler. Also, dipstick. There's different types of guitars. I play 6 strings, so you'll want a bass guitarist too. Find someone who could do both bass and vocals. Okay, well, do you know anyone that can do both? Danny retorted. Ember grinned. As a matter of fact, I do. You. Danny blinked in surprise. A flat what was all he managed. Yeah, you. I'll teach you some basic guitar skills and get you something fashionable. Okay, first, I can't sing. Second, my fashion's fine. Third, public enemy number 1, remember? Ember rolled her eyes. Not as Phantom, as Fenton, duh. We'll discuss the fashion thing more later, but come on, 2 years of the same look has gotta be boring. You can definitely sing Nimrod, I've heard it. What? When? Danny asked, confused. You sing in the shower. Danny paused, processing that for a moment before saying with incredulity, You've watched me shower? No, that would be like an invasion of privacy, but you're loud, and I've been through the portal while you were in there. Like, pretty sure everyone goes who regularly sneaks through has heard it at least once. Some people stopped to listen. Then he felt his face redden. He wasn't quite sure how that worked, given technically he bled green, as he realized apparently all the regular ghosts had heard his awful shower singing. It hadn't occurred to him that ghosts' enhanced hearing would allow for that. "It's not awful," Ember said, predicting his thoughts. Far from it, actually. Like, first of all ghosts have perfect pitch, music being the language of emotion and all that, so it would literally be impossible for you to be horrible unless you tried. But even by ghost standards, your voice is, like, super harmonious. You'd be an awesome lead singer. Danny frowned. "You gotta be kidding me," he said, referring both perfect pitch being a ghost ability and that he could sing well. "Nope, not at all," Ember assured him. "Confidence and showmanship could use some tweaking, but we'll work on that. How much time we got?" October 7th is the concert," Danny said, realizing he'd forgotten to tell her. Ember gave Danny an incredulous look. "A month? Seriously? That's not a lot of time." "But doable," she decided. "You've got to promise to practice every single day, though. Seriously." Danny nodded. "Of course," he said, though still a little skeptical that he could learn enough to play in a concert in that time frame or even wanted to be in the band, but he felt like he had no choice as to either. "Then come on, let's go find that drummer." Ember flew off farther into Ghost Zone, and Danny was quick to follow, realizing she probably meant ghost musicians. Having one ghost in the band was risky, but 2.5 technically, as Danny sincerely doubted Ember would let him off the hook. She'd likely make it part of the deal. Well, he'd come this far. He hadn't seen Ember this excited since, well, the pirate ship thing, so why not? To Lancer's total surprise, Daniel Fenton arrived at school early the next day, so much so that he entered Lancer's classroom before any other students. "The time machine, Mr. Fenton, you're actually here on time. Early, even," Lancer declared. Daniel ignored the exclamation and happily announced, "I found a band for the school festival." He grinned, showing off what appeared to be fangs. Lancer's jaw dropped at the cataclysmic news. "You did?" he proclaimed, ignoring the fangs. "Probably just some new fashion trend. This must be a prank. There's simply no way Daniel Fenton had found a band in less than a day when Lance had been searching for weeks." Honestly, when Fenton had said he'd find someone at the end of the detention the previous day, after seeing Lancer embarrassingly fretting over his failure, Lancer had thought the boy had been only strangely attempting to comfort him, not seriously willing to help, even though earlier in the day Lancer had been offered extra credit to any student who managed to find one. If anything, he'd expected the money-wasting A-list kids to do it, via bribing. "Yeah, that's what I just said," Daniel replied, a little testy. "I told you I would." Yes, you did," Lancer said as he gathered his composure, ignoring the attitude. He shouldn't have assumed the worst. It was something Lancer had vowed to work on this year's New Year's resolution, yet again he had once forgotten. "Apologies, it's just unexpected considering every single band I've contacted has said no. Apparently the school's either too haunted or too cheap for them." "What's the band?" We don't have a name yet," Daniel said with realization, though he'd forgotten one was needed. "Is it your band?" Lancer asked, now skeptical. "Well, kinda. I only just got the people together, but they're all great musicians, I swear." I don't know," Lancer said, now unsure. True, he couldn't find anyone else, especially on the meager budget the school offered, but a student band? It wasn't anywhere Daniel played an instrument. "Would you rather have no band?" Well, Lancer debated that. It would look worse to have nothing, that was true. He'd really hyped up the school first ever fall festival, which was an attempt to help bridge the ever-widening gap between the community and Casper High, which had increased significantly after being recently named the most haunted school in America by Time magazine. "Well, perhaps if no one else steps up," he trailed. Maybe he could keep trying, although honestly he was running out of time. It was September 8th, and the festival was to take place on the first Saturday of October, which was the 7th. Most bands wanted longer than a month's notice, so even if he did manage to find a band that was willing to play in Amity Park, there'd be a good chance they'd say no with too little notice. "Please, I need the extra credit," Daniel entreated. "We'll do it for free." Well, that's essentially the deal, Lancer decided. Looks like the school festival will have that balloon arch after all. Just it being out of budget had been a disappointment to so many. Well, I suppose we can't get any better than that, he said. Something occurred to him. Just promise me, beyond the wall of sleep, that Mr. Foley isn't in it, or at least won't have a vocal role. Oh, definitely not, Daniel said, looking properly horrified at the idea. He doesn't even know about the band existing yet. Good, Lancer said, sighing in relief at the disaster averted. Oh, I suppose I should ask, though, what kind of music is it? He couldn't be picky, he knew, but parents might get angry if it was something more controversial like death metal or the new gangsta rap. It's just going to be covers of popular songs. That's okay, right? Daniel asked. Like maybe a mix of rock and pop? It'll be a mix of decades, too. Maybe 60s through now? So the parents will be happy? I mean, it just formed, so there's not really any time to write anything new. Lancer nodded, especially liking the mix of decades, and then noticed the students were starting to trickle in. Two being Lester and his twin brother, Nathan, as usual, Mikey right behind them. Understandable, of course, Lancer told Daniel. You've got the job. Now, get to your seat. Looks like your classmates are arriving. You what? Sam hissed at the lunch table. She and Danny were sitting at a picnic table right outside, eating packed lunches while Tucker braved the cafeteria, not yet back with the questionable food service there. Danny could practically taste Sam's anger, or actually could. Danny was still unclear if he could sense emotions like other ghosts could, or if he could taste them. Or if he'd just been that attuned to emotions ever since learning how ghosts were connected to emotions. Danny had been musing over that, as well as sometimes vaguely wondering if he could feed on emotions too before quickly pushing that thought away. He wasn't that much of a ghost, or was he? I found more band members, Danny told Sam as calmly as he could, his tongue fiddling with his tiny fangs. They'd grown in the other day after both his canines had somehow gotten knocked out in a fight, and they were still incredibly sore, knowing well what Sam was questioning. Yeah, I heard that. I meant the other part. You're joking, right? You've got to be joking. Jazz found that more of the kids' friends to do it or something, right? No, I'm serious, Danny said sheepishly, feeling slightly guilty. He hadn't told her about where he planned to get the other band members if this was just a reaction to her reaction to Ember. Danny, I say this with tranquility and affection. What the fuck is wrong with you? Well, quite a bit, actually. Danny quipped back, trying to ease the tension. I mean, I'm half dead to start with, but come on, it's a good idea, right? I mean, she's a great musician. Yeah, as well as a ghost who tried to take over the whole world. Well, she promised not to do that this time, Danny pointed out. Oh, and you trust her on that? Well, whatever. Your funeral if she betrays you, or ghost hunters get wind of it, which they will, considering it's her. No, she promised to wear a disguise. Oh, well, that's totally foolproof, Sam said sarcastically, complete with an eye roll, then paused. Actually, no, maybe it could work in this town. Just please don't tell me the other ones you found are more human. Well, one of them is, Denise said. At least a little bit. Just one? You said you found 4 members. Sam sighed in exasperation. Okay, fine. Who are the others? Kitty, Johnny, and me, Danny quickly revealed. First 2 were excited, third is reluctant, but Ember made part of the deal. Kitty's doing bass, and Johnny's doing the drums. Kitty had been there when they'd asked Johnny, and apparently she had a bass guitar when she was alive and still remembered how to play. Ember tested that, and to the rest of everyone there, Kitty was good. Sam sighed again, and clearly frustrated. Okay, I guess those 2 aren't as bad as long as they don't fight on stage, and they can pass as human. Great, Danny said. But, Sam continued, you can't be the last one. There's no way no one will recognize Phantom, even with the disguise. And what are you even playing? Well, yeah, that's why I'll be in human form, Danny said. It's not like I want to, but 3 of them decided that if I'm not in the band, they're not either, and I'll be doing guitar and vocals. Since Kitty could do bass, Amber had decided Danny would be using a 6-string too, as well as it would be easier for her to teach him using her preferred style of guitar. And you don't think that would get you bullied even more? The A-listers won't let you live that down, Sam pointed out. You don't even know how to play guitar, and the class did karaoke. Well, that didn't exactly end well. Danny rolled his eyes. That was in, 7th grade. Ember says my singing isn't bad now, given that apparently all ghosts have perfect pitch. Yeah, music is a ghost power. Who knew? So she said she's gonna help me fine-tune that, and she's probably gonna teach me how to play guitar and be more of an on-the-stage presence or something. Like that. And Kitty says that the right fashion might actually boost my popularity, at least enough for me to stop being Dash's target. He was skeptical of that, but the small hope had been part of what had convinced him to agree. I mean, it's worth a shot, right? Denny asked upon seeing Sam's look of disbelief. Okay, you've officially gone off the rails, she concluded. Seriously, you're seriously planning to sing and get guitar lessons from a ghost? And showmanship and fashion, Danny reminded her, before realizing that would simply add to Sam's ire. He was excited about that, though. Showmanship was important for being a hero, too, so maybe it would help with Phantom's public image. He was also excited that new clothes. Ember was right. Danny needed to update the look, considering that he hasn't been clothes shopping in 2 years, which, come to think of it, is kind of odd for his age. Nope, no time to think about that possible clusterfuck. He was just a late bloomer, that's all. You're doing what now? Tucker asked as he sat down beside Danny. Lunch tray filled with something that vaguely resembled meatloaf and somehow spelled like pea soup. Nothing, Daniel said quickly. Sam glared at Danny. I feel like I missed something big, Tucker said with a frown. He looked at Danny. I heard you say something about possible lessons from a ghost. Please tell me you're joking. He's not, Sam said flatly, pulling out her phone. I'm telling Jazz about this. Maybe she can talk some sense into you. No, wait, Danny said, lunging for the phone and ending up halfway through the table before Tucker pulled him out back to his seat. He hadn't had an accident like that in a while. Why were his powers acting up so much in human form lately? Was it backlash from his letting his ghost have fade? Okay, spill, Tucker said firmly. There's nothing to spill, Danny said, blushing, looking at the table. And I'm a purple-back gorilla, Tucker said flatly, and then sighed. Look, if Sam's telling Jazz about whatever this is, it can't be a good idea. No, it's fine. They all agreed to behave, Danny insisted. And what about Ember's boyfriend? Skulker's gonna have you hunt even worse when he finds out. Oh, no, they broke up, Danny informed her. Skulker has been, soaking for the past few days, and Ember says it'll be another week before he recovers mentally, and another week or 2 to get his suit functional again since she burned it. Okay, fine. After that, even if they're exes, if he catches you with her... Wait, what? Tucker said, sitting straight up and looking at Danny with incredulity. You're dating Ember? What? No! He shouted, drawing some stairs, and he told them more quietly. Of course not. She's just going to be teaching me how to sing and play guitar. Plus, Sam would probably kill him if he ever fully dated a ghost. There's also the fact that Ember was a girl, and Danny was starting to suspect that... No, he couldn't think about that. That was practically a death sentence. The amount of bullying that would surely increase. Plus, he had no clue how his friends or family would react to that. Like that's any better? Sam hissed. Why? Tucker asked wearily. No offense, but you don't really have the best singing voice. Ember disagrees, Danny said reluctantly, offended. And you're one to judge. Hey, I'm a rock star, Tucker defended. Besides, who says she's not messing with you? She's not. It's actually a ghost thing. All ghosts have perfect pitch, Danny explained. Tucker raised a skeptical eyebrow. My dude, are you seriously saying that singing is a ghost power? Danny shrugged. Ghosts are emotional beings, and music is often called the language of emotion, so why not? Yo, Finturd, came Dash's voice, and Danny turned to see the bully stalking towards him. The air practically felt charged with Dash's constant determination to cause Danny misery for just existing. Danny winced. Oh, great. Then he gasped as his ghost sense went off. Double great. You should have expected a ghost today, honestly. The shields were down for maintenance, and his parents being in the building doing said maintenance would definitely not deter many ghosts. I heard you got some newbie band for the festival, Dash said, grabbing Danny by the collar. Better be a good one or you're in for a beating. And that's what Danny could only describe as a violent charge in the air around the bully. Danny rolled his eyes. Like I wasn't already? Yo, get away from Baby Pop! Came a shout, followed by a guitar strum and a wave of a fairly weak energy slamming in Dash. Dash dropped Danny and stumbled back as the ghost sirens blared. What the fuck? He said, swerving around. Ember floated to the ground, ignoring the screams, some in fear and some in joy, because it was Ember! And Dash, who appeared stunned by being so close to her, whether that was due to her being a ghost or being a pop star, was undetermined. Ember, what the hell are you doing here? Danny asked incredulously. Ember shrugged, indifferent to the chaos around them. Apparently saving you from a kid I'm pretty sure is going to murder someone someday. Danny scoffed. Please, Dash isn't that bad. Dude, his vibe was like definitely a future serial killer one. Danny rolled his eyes. Sure, Ember was exaggerating. Whatever. Why are you here? Ember raised an eyebrow. Seriously? I'm here to pick you up for your music lessons, dipstick. I have school. Danny protested as Dash regained his senses and fled. So? I can't just skip school. It's for music lessons. Just consider it part of your education. We gotta do it now so you're ready for band practice later, got it? But Danny trailed off, biting his lip a little. Did sound much more appealing than school. Danny, be responsible, Sam said. Ember replied, come on, you can do school later. It's music time now. Danny considered that. It was awfully tempting. You know what? Sure, he decided. What? No, Sam protested. Yeah, man, haven't you missed enough school already? Tucker pointed out. Danny shrugged and stood up. Like Ember said, music lessons are technically education, right? You two want to join? Again, we have school, Sam said flatly. Depends. Where are you doing them? Tucker asked. Ember looked at him like he had two heads. My lair? Duh. Tucker winced. In that case, it's a hard pass. I hate being in the zone. Yeah, same, Sam said. Ember shrugged. Your loss. I'll see you at practice later, I guess. Let's go now, Baby Pop. But I didn't agree yet, Danny pointed out, still on the fence. It sounded fun, but school existed, although technically the lessons were school-related, though, as they were to make sure you could play during the school festival. At that moment, Danny's parents rushed out of the school building, his dad yelling, Get your hands off of Danny, you rotten ghost! Ember then rolled her eyes and grabbed Danny by the hand, pulling her to the sky off towards the portal, his parents yelling after them as panic as Dad shot the weapons their way. Stopped quickly by his mom, who reminded him that Danny was there. Not that it mattered how wide the shots went. Valerie showed up too, yelling in rage, though seemed to realize they were already too far away to follow as Danny activated his invisibility, which Ember apparently had forgotten to do. This was going to be a disaster. Sam stared at the spot where Amber had vanished with Danny, trying to convince herself that she wasn't feeling jealous of what she wasn't sure. It wasn't like Amber was a threat to the relationship or friendship, was she? Not for the first time. Sam had wondered if she interpreted things incorrectly when she and Danny had amicably broke up after only a month of dating. Sam had thought that their love was more platonic and family-like rather than romantic, and Danny had easily agreed with what seemed like relief. But then why was she so jealous when she thought of him and Ember hanging out, alone, in a ghost's private lair? Did Sam still have romantic feelings? She was certain Danny did not. In fact, she was starting to suspect that he might not be attracted to girls at all, regardless of past relationships. Not that she would have realized it, though. Not that he would have realized it, though, being the oblivious goose he was. And if he did, well, coming out was a bitch. Maybe if Sam came out to him as bi, he'd confide in her? But even so, she hadn't come out to anyone yet, and the task was daunting. She could never let her parents find out, that was for sure. Not till she was 18 and out of the house. They'd immediately send her to one of the camps. She wondered if that's how Danny felt about revealing a secret ghost identity to his parents. Danny also probably be hanging out with Kitty and Johnny, too. Come to think of it, Sam didn't like that either. She knew Danny didn't see every ghost as a threat anymore, including ones that were former enemies, even if it was getting friendly with some of them, but the idea of him actually making friends with ghosts, especially ones he'd regularly fought still. How playful were those battles seeming to be lately, or was it actually play? Hadn't Danny told her about something about ghost culture and friendly fighting? Sam didn't like the idea of that. "Dude, I really was missing something, wasn't I?" Tucker said, blinking a few times. "Wait, did she say something about a band?" "Wait a second," Sam realized, frowning. "I'm in the band too. Are they seriously going to practice without me?" Tucker swerved to face her. "Wait, what?" Sam slammed her hand into her face. "Damn it. I wasn't supposed to let you find out about that." "Hold up, you're in a ghost band?" Well, Sam winced. Surprisingly, Jack and Maddie saved Sam as they ran over. "What happened to Danny?" Maddie demanded. "Why did that ghastly ghost grab him?" "Why aren't you more worried?" Jack fiercely questioned. "Jack, they're obviously in shock," Maddie told them. Yeah, totally," Tucker muttered. Definitely in shock." Maybe he even was, but less from Danny being kidnapped and more from the ghost band bombshell Sam had dropped. "Can you tell us what happened? Do you know how ghost took Danny?" Tucker regained his senses. She went, "Ow!" as he yelled as Sam kicked Tucker in the shin with her combat boot, catching himself. And then she went that way, pointing the opposite direction as they had gone. Maddie frowned. "But we saw it fly in the other direction," she said. Yeah, a misdirection. Didn't you see her turn around right before going invisible?" Jack gasped. Of course, just the sly trickery one would expect from a ghost. Maddie, to the gaff! If she's still close, we can track her." Jack raced off along with his wife. As they left, Maddie scolding Jack with using the correct pronouns for ghosts. Jazz joined them. "So what's really going on?" she asked casually as she was at the school under the guise of helping her parents with the school security system upgrades, which really meant adding in a few modifications so it wouldn't trigger a lockdown every time Danny used his powers. "Amber took Danny to the ghost zone for music lessons," Sam said flatly. Jazz blinked in surprise. Should we rescue him?" she wondered. Sam sighed. "No need. I gotta get over there too. For band practice, apparently, or rather to convince him to hold it in the human realm." Wait, what?" Jazz asked, seeming to need a moment to process that. "Yep, the rest of the ghost band is ghosts. Surprise!" Jazz sighed. "Of course it is," she muttered. "I'll go notify Lurker." "Oh, right, that they probably don't want to be in the ghost zone," Sam realized. Sam didn't want to be either, but at least she was used to it. Jazz waved a dismissive hand. "No, they'll be fine with that. They've lived in worse dimensions," she said vaguely, and Sam had a feeling she didn't want to know. Jazz continued. "But I can see if I can get a non-ghost zone studio space reserved at the last minute." "Oh, no need," Sam said. "My house has a music studio already." "Is there anything your house doesn't have?" Tucker asked in awe. Jazz then frowned. "Wait, the Spectre speeder currently isn't working. Sam, you can't get there unless Danny returns for you." Sam closed her eyes and sighed. "Of course it is." "Well, I guess you and I are hanging out today, Tucker," she said. "You don't think he'll return for you?" Tucker asked, clearly surprised. "Nope," Sam said flatly. "He's gonna lose track of time. It's all wonky in there, and he never remembers to recalibrate his watch. This would not be the first time that this has happened." Tucker winced. "Yeah, I hate how right you are." Suddenly, the school bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. Great. It rang 5 minutes earlier than it used to. A quirk of the post-time glitch world. Oh, I forgot about that, Tucker said, blinking. Well, I'll see you later, Jazz said, heading off. Sam sighed. I really don't want to go back to class, she told Tucker. Same, Tucker agreed. Hey, want to skip and go to Nasty Burger? I couldn't take more than 2 bites of today's school slop. He shook the lunch tray, and Sam winced as the grayish blob jiggled. Sam shrugged. Why not? She decided, feeling a need to eat her feelings of frustration despite having just eaten lunch. Oddly enough, Nasty Burger had some pretty great ultra-recyclable vegetarian stuff. The two began to leave school campus, too. Someone grabbed their backpacks, halting them. Oh, no, you don't, Mr. Lancer told them, pulling them around and leading them back to the building by their backpacks. You two will be going to class, and after your classes, because you've attempted to skip, you'll be going to detention, where you'll help grade papers for the freshman English class. The first thing Amber did upon bringing Danny to her lair was push him on the couch and hand him a guitar. The guitar was a familiar one, with a dark lavender bass with spiked wings, and a flame-like shaped end above the frets. Danny wasn't well versed in what parts of guitars were called. Cyan flame accents decorated the body of the guitar. This is now your guitar, Ember told him. I recently got a new one, so you can keep it. Call it a gift of new friendship. She hopped next to Danny and put on the couch and summoned her new guitar, which is similar, albeit with a few more spikes, and made the body more flame-like instead of cyan and purple. It was bubblegum pink with a more chaotic crimson and black fire design decorating it. You sure? Danny confirmed. That's what I said, isn't it, dipstick? If you don't accept it, Band isn't happening. Oh, okay, thanks then, Danny said, knowing she was serious, and then realized something. Wait, isn't the one they used, isn't this the one you used to try to take over the world twice? Yep, Ember told him, seeming rather proud of it. It can also do some cool stuff like amplify attacks or shoot enchantments, she told him, happily, and then noticing his expression and quickly amended. But we'll just be using it for the sound, of course. The attack settings will be off. Right. So I don't know much about guitars. This is a 6-string, you said? Is that typical, or do they usually have less? Is 6 harder to play? Danny asked, choosing to ignore the part about it being weaponized. He recalled Kitty's only had 4 strings. Nah. 6 strings pretty standard, Ember explained. It's a higher pitch to us than its strings, which will actually make it a little easier in my opinion, but just can take a longer time to figure out the chords and remember the notes. Bass is lower, so it has thicker strings with only 4. There's less notes to remember, but you gotta hold down the strings and strum really hard. I really think you'd do better with a 6 string. Oh, okay, Danny said. I'll trust you on that. You know music best. Damn right I do, Ember said proudly. Also, I was thinking maybe that lurker kid could come play the guitar instead. Don't know if he's used one before, but it's not that different from a keyboard, just more mobile, which would probably do better for choreography. Think he could? Honestly, I'm not sure. Jazz found him. Honestly, I haven't even met him yet. Ember laughed. Wow, you're really unprepared for this, aren't you, Baby Pop? Well, let's get to it then. First thing, get that guitar tuned to you. Tuned? Danny asked, confused. Yeah, I told you, it's yours now. I don't need my old one. Oh, thank you, Danny said, surprised. You sure? Ember rolled her eyes. Again, yes. Stop asking that. I wouldn't have told you to attune it to it if it weren't. Were you? Weren't, would I? Danny scrunched his eyebrows in confusion. I still don't know what that means. Ember looked at Danny with incredulity. Seriously? You don't? Oh, I guess you might not know the terminology since you're so new. I mean, connect it to you so you can manifest it at will. Manifest it? Yeah, like this, Ember said, then summoned her own guitar out of thin air. Danny took a moment to process that. I can't do that, he said. Well, duh, you haven't attuned to it. No, I mean, I can't summon objects at all. It's not summoning, Ember corrected. It's manifesting. Oh, are you already at max capacity? Danny scrunched his brow in confusion. No, I seriously can't do that. Ember gave Danny a skeptical look. Then how do you think your suit happens? My suit? Yeah, your suit's bound to you. That's why your form's been damaged, and you're not naked when you switch forms. Wait, did you not know how to do that? No, I didn't, Danny said. No way. Wait, you didn't choose your outfit. Is that just what you died in? Yeah. Wait, ghosts can change outfits? Danny asked. Then he realized he'd seen Ember herself in different outfits, and Todd definitely didn't die in a cape. Dude, do you really think I wore a leather crop top and leggings in the 70s? And what, did you think I just put the pirate outfit on top of my normal one or something? Yeah, they can be changed. It just needs to be ectoplasm infused. Then you attune it from the current to the current outfit and attune it to a new one. But then why don't I see ghosts change much? Danny wondered. Ember shrugged. What's the point? Ecto-based clothes are self-cleaning and repair themselves, so if you like the style, why waste the cash and bother taking time to change unless you're bored with the style and need a specific costume for something? Oh, I didn't think of it that way, Danny realized, and he had noticed the self-repair, but didn't give much thought to it before the fact that his ghost suit had never needed cleaning. It was infused with ectoplasm, though. That made sense. The stuff repelled dirt and disease like it had a vengeance against it. Honestly, Danny wasn't sure why his parents had attempted to make any first aids or cleaning products from it. Dude, we need you to get something better than that suit, then. No, it's okay, Danny said quickly. Then he explained. It's recognizable. If I want to be the town hero, I need people to be able to easily recognize me. Ember considered that. Okay, fine. Then attune to a second one, and I'll show you how to switch between them, she said, her usual outfit suddenly shifting to her pirate one. Why? Oh, hey, you have a ghost attitude towards it. Nice, Ember cheered. And Danny wasn't sure if he wanted a ghost attitude towards anything. But if it'll help for stealth, it will help for stealth to have a second ghost outfit, right? If you need a disguise but don't want to go human. I guess that's true, Danny said, a little uncomfortable with the go human line, as it implied his human half was the default. Did ghosts see Danny as a ghost with human powers or something? He was even in human form at the moment. I'll think about it, he decided. Cool. Oh, wait, where were we? All right, attuning the guitar. Danny frowned. I still don't think I can do that. Like, I can with clothes, I guess, but I mean, not other objects? I have to carry objects the old-fashioned way. Ember had a look of confusion. Oh, you're thinking of human objects. This guitar was made in a ghost stone by a ghost instrument maker. Ghost objects can be absorbed into a ghost and manifested at will. Like clothing. You didn't know that. No. Still, I don't think I can, though. Ember gave Danny a flat look. Dude, your core is, like, uber powerful. You can definitely attune to ghost objects. Oh, Danny said. I hadn't realized that. So how... Ember reached forward and put her hand on Danny's chest. I'll try to guide you. Feel your core in your chest. Focus on... Wait, whoa, what the fuck? She looked worried. Baby Pup, what did you do? What do you mean? Danny asked in confusion. Your core is, like, drained. Drained? Danny focused on his core. It feels the same it always does, he said. Maybe a little more charged than usual, actually. It does sound ghost to him for some reason. Ember gave Danny an incredulous look. Wait, you're where ghosts need ectoplasm, right? Well, yeah, Danny said. That's why you guys need to recharge the ghost zone sometimes. Then why are you intentionally starving yourself? Ember asked, looking worried and nervous. I'm not. I eat plenty. Clearly not if your core's like this. I've got some food, No need, Danny interjected. Like I said, I eat plenty. Yeah, maybe human food, but you need ghost food. No, I don't, Danny argued. I'm not a full ghost. I'm part human, so I don't need ghost food, he told her, though he found himself not fully believing his own words. Still, he insisted. I'm different. Ember shook her head. I hate to break this to you, but part human or not, you're still part ghost, too. You gotta feed it. The ambient ectoplasm in your house sure as hell ain't enough if your core is like that. It's gotta be affecting your powers, I bet. Denny frowned. My powers are fine, he said, really not liking the implication that he needed ectoplasm to survive. He wasn't that much of a ghost, was he? Ember didn't reply. Instead, she demanifested her guitar and stood up, moving to the fridge, in which she took out what appeared to be a plastic drinking bottle that looked a bit like Gatorade, except for the fact that it was glowing green on the labels and ghost runes. She turned to the couch and took the top off and handed it to Danny. Humor me, she said. Danny accepted the bottle and looked at it. I can't drink this, he told her. You can, and you will, Ember said. No, I'll get sick. Do you actually know that? Well, no. Then try it. Trust me, you just said you feel a slight charge for being here, right? Ember reasoned. I'm telling you, it's the ectoplasm. Drink it. Danny frowned. Ember seemed confident in this, and she did have a point about the ghost zone making his core happy. It kind of felt like the peer pressure to do drugs that the DARE program talked about. Well, Danny had never been good at listening to authority. He took a deep breath. Bottoms up, I guess, he muttered. Danny took a sip and his eyes widened. It was good. The drink's flavor itself was orange, but the ectoplasm infusion added a pleasant zing to it. His core positively purred with just that single sip. He felt like he imagined someone severely dehydrated would when encountering water. And before he knew it, Danny had downed the whole bottle. His core vibrated. He felt more charged than he ever had. Ember laughed. Wow, guess you didn't really need that. Danny nodded. That was... wow. Ember put her hand on Danny's chest over his core. Needs more, she concluded, and then hurried to grab another from the fridge. Danny devoured that one too. His core positively buzzed, almost in relief. Ember put her hand on Danny's chest and nodded. Oh yeah, that's fully charged now. You've seriously been relying on the ambient ectoplasm in Amity Park? Like, I know your house is a lot, and I bet your human food is contaminated, but I'm honestly surprised you lasted a whole 2 years like that. Your powers are probably suffering for it. You think? I know. I haven't had my core drained like that. I've had that core drained like that before. It sucks. Feels like everything's muted and your senses go all wonky. I can barely sense people's emotions, and I couldn't really tell the difference between ghost presences. It's so weird. Literally every ghost set off my ghost sense, known, friendly or not. Manifesting things was so difficult. I felt super tired too. My stamina sucked. Wait, that's not just my sucky sleep schedule? Danny said, surprised. He did feel less tired than earlier, though, despite having gotten a whole whopping 3 hours of sleep the previous night. The comment about ghost sense was interesting, too. Did all ghosts have ghost sense, not just half us? Ember shrugged. Don't know, since most ghosts don't sleep, but I'd say it's a good bet. Danny shrugged to process this. He had effectively been starving his ghost half. Did he really need ectoplasm to survive? So, Baby Pop, now that you're all charged, I'll show you how to attune to your new guitar and we'll get learning. Sounds good, Danny said, though he was still conflicted about the ectoplasm requirement. It charged his ghost half true, but because of that, somehow he felt like he was less human, even though it apparently had been something he needed all along. Danny had blatantly realized that he never switched to his ghost form the entire time he'd been in Ember's lair, not even when drinking the ectoplasm, which, in that amount, would kill a human. It reminded him of another existential crisis he had been having off and on ever since the time glitch incident at the end, which Danny had accepted that he had belonged to both the human and ghost worlds, vowing to be the bridge between the two. Danny had been noticing less and less of the difference between his and Phantom's form, with the conclusion that, at this point, it was essentially only his look that changed. Not for the first time, Danny wondered how much human was left in him, because he was seriously starting to suspect that he was no longer even split between human and ghost, if it ever truly had been. Jack rested his hand on his chin, elbow on the desk, see around the school security footage, and watched the interaction between Danny and the ghost once again. After looking at the direction Tucker pointed to seem fruitless, Maddie had implied that Jack had a choice, so it was really more like demanded that they split up and searched, her continuing in the direction while Jack went to go search the opposite direction, just in case the ghost had doubled back. Jack had suggested checking the security feed to see if there were any other clues about what could be found, although Maddie had vetoed that, saying that the ghost had run off with Danny and ghosts could only have Letitia's, so that there was no information to gain. Jack decided to check the security feed anyway, and was frankly glad he had, because the interaction the ghost had with humans therefore appeared to be very different than had been assumed. Maddie, of course, has said she was tricking them, but Jack didn't see a reason for the ghost to do this, and she would easily have swooped in and taken Danny immediately if she wanted to. Yet, she didn't. The video, unfortunately, was silent and from a far distance, but when zoomed in, although blurry, you could still tell what had happened and was vastly different from what was expected of a ghost, leaving Jack to wonder, if not for the first time, what he had believed for so long about ghosts was true. It's certain that he had jumped to conclusions earlier, not that he could tell Maddie that, of course, but perhaps if she could talk to Danny and get his true thoughts on the matter and explain this further. After all, Danny had clearly gone with the ghost willingly after a brief argument that Jack assumed was related rather not to class. Had given Danny a chance, given that Danny had glanced at the school a few times while looking contemplative, and then appeared to happily be agreeable. Then shook him by the hand to fly away, not by the arm, not roughly, but by the hand in a fairly loose grip that surely Danny could have broken out easily if he wanted to. Jack rewound the video back to when the ghost first appeared, rewatching the most damning piece of evidence that this is not as it appeared. The ghost had not just defended Danny from a bully, but used a non-damaging attack to do it. Jack had seen the footage of that very ghost destroying cars with energy blasts from that guitar, yet she just used a small one for some reason. She cared about avoiding damage to humans, and for some reason, she seemed to care particularly for Danny. After all, she had no reason to scare off the bully other than to make sure Danny was okay, and the angry look that crossed her face had been the same protectiveness Jack had seen in Danny's other friends, and Jazz towards the boy. Clearly, Danny was with the ghost by choice. This ghost clearly cared about Danny to the point where she was willing to protect him, meaning this may have happened before, and Danny was likely safe. Perhaps they were even friends. Therefore, he wasn't really in need to look for Danny yet. He'd return on his own, as usual, maybe even before dinner, although Jack doubted that. Jack was at a loss of words for what to do. He was now armed with the information. Should he tell Maddie's conclusion? No. Maddie would just yell at Jack again about how he shouldn't humanize ghosts. She always did that, insisting ghosts were evil, thoughtless, and emotionless, no matter how much evidence seemed to be the contrary. She constantly berated Jack and Danny for trying to say that ghosts are good ghosts, too, insisting they could only be malevolent, but this interaction alone seemed to prove otherwise. Well, Emperor had truly tried to take over the world before, but later used adults to power a pirate ship. That was pretty bad, but despite that, she never really seemed to have cruel intentions. From what Jack observed, and it was honestly maybe even over her world domination phase, she popped up and sometimes tried to get in fights with phantoms, which nowadays seemed more playful than anything, but otherwise didn't bother anyone with more than some property damage. But the fact that phantoms seemed to be playing too, more or less, cemented the fact that the ghost boy had often gotten angry at any ghost with clearly bad intentions. What did this all mean? Was Danny friends with Emperor? Was that possible? Should he ask Danny? No, Danny would just immediately deny it, whether it was true or not, given Jack's previous position on ghosts. Not like Jack really explicitly announced a change of views, not without destroying his relationship with Maddie. She was so rigid on her views about ghosts still. Maybe he could change her perspective? Jack's reverie was interrupted by a cell phone ringing. "Speak to the devil," he muttered, seeing the caller ID, and then flipped it open and answered. What's up, Mads? Hi, sweetie. Maddie's voice changed. How's the search going? I've had no luck yet. Yeah, same, Jack replied. Well, of course you haven't, given you're at school for some reason. Didn't I tell you that'd be fruitless? Jack winced. Yeah, you... Wait. Jack cut himself off, narrowing his eyes. How do you know where I am? Lucky guess? Right, Jack said, making a note to check for tracking devices. Again. She'd said she stopped, but evidently she hadn't. Jack didn't feel like arguing about that at the moment, though. Well, I just wanted to be thorough, he said. There's thorough, and then there's foolish. Do you want to find Danny or not? Of course I do, Jack said, though I actually was unsure if he was a liar or not. Danny went willingly, wouldn't violently snatching him back do more harm, because Maddie wouldn't be violent towards the ghost if Jack was sure, given that it might be better off to let Danny return on his own. Suggesting that to Maddie, though, would only end another fight, and Jack was incredibly tired of fighting. As I thought, now come outside, we'll search the other direction together. as you should have been doing in the first place. Sure thing, Mads, Jack said, trying not to feel too bad about her chastisement. It's easier to just outwardly agree with her, even if internally he felt differently. She always said he was in the wrong, so he was. That's just how it had to appear. Jack really hoped something would change, and she started accepting that ghosts weren't inherently evil and maybe be even worth talking to. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep hiding his evolving beliefs from his wife. Danny returned home after dinner time, making a show of entering the house through the front door, even though he hadn't actually returned through the portal, unbeknownst to his parents. Tucker had created a lock on the ghost's own side so that Danny didn't need to wait for someone to open it. Danny had then made an embarrassing mistake of walking through the front door without opening it. He winced and glanced at his living room and expected his parents to be waiting for him, desperately hoping they didn't see. Thankfully, his parents weren't actually there. Instead, Jazz was standing on the couch. As he moved away from the entryway to the living room, she finally saw him. She crossed her arms and she sighed before telling him flatly, "Mom and Dad saw Ember kidnap you." Danny winced. He'd forgotten that they were at school and that it had not really occurred to him that what would happen could be interpreted as kidnapping. Or maybe it was kidnapping, technically. Either way, it wasn't really good. He didn't need any more reasons for his parents to hate ghosts. It was supposed to be the bridge to gap between the worlds. Yet everything he did seemed to only enlarge the gap farther. Although, maybe the kidnapping excuse could work in his favor, since he would otherwise be in trouble for coming home past dinner time without a calling. Absence of phone notwithstanding, he'd been having so much fun with Ember. And then eventually Kitty and Johnny, learning guitar, and then just hanging out in general. He had barely even noticed time passing. All four of them had so much fun, in fact, that they were really forgot about band practice in general. Danny hadn't realized it could be so much fun hanging out with ghosts. They seemed to be on friendly terms for a while, but the concept of actually spending time with them was brand new. Danny found himself wanting to do so more often. Hopefully Danny's human friends would be okay with the situation. Oh crap, speaking of Sam, she was going to be pissed. Danny had assumed Sam would show up and let them know for the whole practice, which is why he hadn't monitored time too closely, but he had forgotten Spectre Speeder was down for maintenance. "Danny, you with me?" Jazz said now, looking more worried. "Huh? Sorry," Danny said, snapping out of reverie. I just realized that my parents weren't going to be the only ones that were angry." "Actually, I doubt they will be, considering I thought they were kidnapped," Jazz said as she stood up. "I, however, am." "You are?" Danny asked, confused. Her demeanor read angry, but for some reason Danny was catching the vibe of disappointed resignation. Wait, vibe? Then he thought back to what Ember had said about her being unable to sense emotions with her core was weak. Then he assumed that ability was unique to her, but if ghosts were connected to emotions, maybe it was just normal ghost power. One Danny had been inadvertently suppressing. He thought he kind of felt them sometimes, but was never as strong as now. "Of course I am! You invited 3 ghosts to join your band!" This confused Danny. "But the other day you were telling me that I should make more actual ghost friends, being the bridge and all," he pointed out. "And because they could teach me more about ghost culture, why are you upset that I'm doing that?" Jazz sighed in frustration, actual anger now charging the air. "Look, I'm glad that you're making ghost friends, don't get me wrong, but you're going to be playing at a school, at a festival, in the human town full of ghost hunters. It's a total recipe for disaster. Sure, plenty of people here are supportive of Phantom, and there's still plenty of Ember fans too, and Masonic University's presence on positive stance on ghosts has really helped. But even then, regardless, people's perceptions of ghosts based on you and her are on the top 10 most wanted list. In fact, you're number 1. That needs to be solved before you start making public appearances in a band." "Oh, you think I'm going to be Phantom for the band stuff?" Danny realized. "No, I'm going to be in my human form, and the other 3 ghosts will be in disguises with pseudonyms." No. Jazz frowned. "Danny, seriously, Jazz, no one's noticed me for years. As long as they're in disguises, I'll be fine, I promise." "For some reason, that doesn't console me." "Yes, it does," Danny said without thinking. Jazz frowned and crossed her arms. "Do I look consoled?" Danny considered that. "No, but it feels like you are." Curiosity wafted around Jazz before she asked, "Danny, are you sensing emotions?" Danny blinked. "Oh," he said. Yes." "How long could you do that?"
Danny shrugged. Honestly, not sure. I've been thinking about this for as long since we learned ghosts fed on emotion. I wasn't really sure at first that was really any different from what humans sense, since it's not usually as strong. Do you think your ghost powers are growing again? Danny shook his head. They're not growing, just more charged than usual, he told her, then sighed and explained. I had an ectoplasm-infused sports drink at Embers, and I've never really had one of them before. It felt really good, like how you might feel after eating a good meal when you're really, really hungry, and my ghost core felt happy, I guess you could say, like it had been wanting that for a while. Jazz took a moment to consider these words, then asked slowly, Danny, do ghosts happen to regularly consume ectoplasm? Yeah. Ember said that they need to either absorb it from the atmosphere, which was really only has enough in the ghost zone, or eat it. Not as frequently as humans need to eat, but she has foods made with it. When Johnny and Kitty got there, she had taken out chips and dip and pretzels made with ectoplasm. The human food components of those wouldn't hurt the core, but the ghosts could still eat them somehow, just not get the energy. So they feed up with ectoplasm and emotions.
Kinda. I also asked Ember about that, and she said technically they don't need to feed on human emotions. Plenty of ghosts live in the ghost zone, like, without ever really having them, but it's like, makes you feel stronger, and apparently fuels really good, like, caffeine to humans or something like that. Not needed, but it gives it an additional charge. Interesting, Jazz said, seeming thoughtful. Back to the ectoplasm. You said it made you feel full, like eating food. Yeah, it was weird. It was like I was hungry for it, and it satisfied a part of me. It was different from human food. Pretty sure I'm still hungry for that, but it felt filling, just for my core instead of my stomach. Jazz considered Danny's words for a moment, and then concluded, Danny, I think you may have been starving your ghost half. Danny winced. Yeah, Ember said that too, he revealed. And since I feel better after the drink, I guess that's true. Jazz nodded. So you've been starving your ghost half, or at least underfeeding it, considering you do have some in your diet with the contaminated food in this house. Don't think I haven't been noticing you willingly eating those now. Well, they taste really good, Danny muttered, feeling embarrassed that Jazz had noticed that, and realized that maybe he was just because his ghost part wanted it, and given that ectoplasm definitely had not tasted good prior to the accident. Jazz continued, so I'm thinking that maybe that diminished some of your ghost abilities. Now that you've had some ectoplasm to feed your ghost half, they're strong again, including abilities like sensing emotion. Danny had considered that. Ember had said it too, and it made a lot of sense, but it really had been hoping it wasn't true. Oh, shit, he concluded. If Jazz thought so too, it must be the case. He couldn't deny it any longer. Jazz seemed to sense that Danny needed more time to think about this new revelation, so she didn't pursue it more. Instead, she said, Anyway, I bet you're hungry for human food too, right? I made pasta. We can eat when Mom and Dad come. I'll call them. No need. I hear the Gav pulling in, Danny told her, easily recognizing the telltale rumble outside. I'm fine, though. I had that ecto drink while I was at Ember's lair, and then ecto chips, ecto dip, ecto pretzels, ecto... You know what? I don't need to know the details. All I need to know is that it made you feel better. Jazz decided. But you still probably need human food, too, she pointed out, as the keys jiggled and locked. Real food, not snack foods. Danny's parents entered the house, both freezing as they saw Danny. Jack broke the silence. Danny boy, you're back, he declared loudly. Did that mean ghosts do something to you? Maddie asked, rushing over to Danny, fretting as she looked over him. Her worry was definitely palpable. Yep, he could undoubtedly sense emotions, Danny concluded, just like a full ghost could. Danny rolled his eyes. I'm fine, Mom. It wasn't a big deal. You can't be serious, Danny, Jack said, though something felt off. Despite his words, he wasn't angry. But why would he be faking that? Of course it's a big deal when ghosts kidnap you. Well, come on, let's go to the lab so we can scan you for ectocontamination. It felt almost like the man didn't actually believe Danny was kidnapped, but was okay with whatever he thought it was instead. So why was he pretending? Was it related to his mom clearly having a different opinion? Yeah, no thank you, Danny said, trying not to shiver at the idea of tests being done on them in their lab. Even though he knew that there would be a few scans with machinery that Tucker had already reprogrammed to avoid exposing Danny's ghostly aspects, he stepped away from his mom, who was poking him in various places. But, Daddy, we need to make sure you're okay, Maddie said. Then take my word for it. I'm perfectly fine. Can you at least let us check you over for injuries? Just to sustain someone you escaped, she insisted, Rory now quickly shifting to frustration, even though she hid that. That had been happening to a concerning amount lately, although he hadn't been certain before. Now he could sense emotion clearly enough to be certain. His mom had a temper she hid. It came out when ghosts were involved, of course, but Danny never expected to be directed at him, too. And Jack? Danny had noticed the tension between them lately. Both tried to hide it around kids. He never knew they argued when they thought he and Jazz couldn't hear them. A frequency higher than before the portal had opened, but only increasing more since the time glitch incident. I'm not injured, Danny said tersely. Ember was just playing. She let me go. Maddie scoffed, not letting her frustration show. Danny, for the 100th time, ghosts don't have emotions like that. They don't play. If it let you go, it must have had some ulterior motive. Did it follow you home? Jack chimed in. If she did, the ghost security system would go off, he said confidently. Danny tried not to smile. That system had actually been down for a while. She didn't follow me home, Mom, Danny said, rolling his eyes. Like I said, she wasn't being malicious. It is a ghost. How many times did I tell you both not to humanize ghosts? Maddie asked, frustration evident. Now, Danny... Look, can you just drop it? Danny interrupted, own anger flaring now. I'm fine, I really am. Just get off my back. You will not speak to me that way, young man, Maddie shouted, taking a step towards Danny, who had gotten a sudden feeling she wanted to hit him, which freaked him out a little. How often did that happen? It was fleeting, but clearly there. Had he not noticed any before? Had it previously been too weak to sense and too weak and fast to sense with his power diminished, or was this brand new? I'm going to my room, Danny stated, and then turned and hurried up the stairs nearby before his parents could reply, and before it developed into another shouting match, or apparently physical fight. Maybe he had read the emotion wrong? Danny, wait! He had heard his dad shout before he slammed the door to his bedroom. Why were his parents still so hateful towards ghosts? He thought they'd been improving on that front since before the time glitch incident. Not for the first time, Danny wondered if the disaster event had been the only thing that changed his timeline. Clockwork had said he'd done his best to find otherwise, arrange it exactly as it had been, but as close as possible didn't mean perfect. There might be very slight differences in how previous events had planned out. Even though he technically all still happened, differences that changed how other people perceived them, differences that caused his parents' hate for ghosts to grow instead of shrink. At least Danny hoped that was the case. There was always the possibility that they'd always felt this way, but Danny hadn't been aware. Well, maybe that was a little unfair. His mom was mostly the one acting so hateful. His dad did seem to be coming around, or at least was actually calling Ember she instead of it. So maybe there was some hope, at least on his dad's front, which, come to think of it, was possibly one of the things causing some tension between his parents. Given his mom so chided his dad too when he did that, the frustration directed at both of them. Then he was also somewhat disturbed about his mom apparently had an urge to hit him, unless he misread it. But he's pretty sure he hadn't. He had definitely felt flares of anger before, but a desire like that, how often had she felt that way? Was it only in this new timeline, or had the ones before the original timeline felt that way too? How was the desire to hit someone even a distinct emotion? Humans need better words for emotions, because evidently there were a lot more than that had singular words for or Danny had to pay more attention to those vocabulary lists in English class. Danny debated on calling Sam and Tucker, but then thought better of it. He could talk to them about school. He probably should do homework, come to think of it. But Danny was feeling too restless for that. Normally he'd fly to go calm down, but he felt like escaping was likely a bad idea at the moment. Danny clutched his hair and growled, frustrated at the world. Geez, this is the long one. Well, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be back next week, maybe, with the rest of it, or later this week. I'll be back with the rest of it soon. Hope you enjoyed, and have a great day, evening, or night, and just eat, sleep, and be healthy. Love y'all. Bye.